I'm going I'm going to ask the board members kind of before we get started. I've had a request for next Saturday to move it an hour earlier, and it's scheduled for 9 Mountain. And now that our Arizona people are no longer on Pacific time, is it okay with you guys? Do you have a problem with moving our meeting an hour earlier?
I'll be working, so it'll be the same, so I'm fine.
Okay.
Uh,
Joe,
grudgingly, I'll go along
grudgingly.
with that.
Begrudgingly, listen at him.
We'll have to get you some coffee. Have Sue have the coffee ready for you. Um,
Retirees have such a hard life.
yeah. So Gary, that okay with you?
You're muted, Gary.
Yes, good. Okay, so I'm going to, I also have one change to the agenda. Um, Gary, I'm going to send you that and you can send that out with the time change announcement. I'll get that to you this weekend.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. And we're going to start the budget workshop now. For anybody who's new, this is where the board goes through and prepares the budget and discusses all the elements. During workshops, owners do not participate unless called on, and I might be reaching out for raise a hand and comments on a couple of things, but otherwise it's board discussion and owners can watch that. Owners' chance to participate is next week when we will have a motion to approve the budget that we arrive at today, and it will be seconded. And then in the board meeting, we'll have board discussion for any additional discussion needed. And then we open up for owner comments. So owners participation will either be as invited today, if invited, or next week before we finalize our vote. So just to let people know how that works. And Joe, I will hand it to you now.
I'll just add to what Stacy said. We don't necessarily finalize the budget today, and then just make a motion next week. There may well be open items at the end of the day today that we'll work through during the course of the next week, and then finish that all up briefly, hopefully briefly, at the regular board meeting next Saturday, and then have the motion and hopefully finalize the budget. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, can y'all see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Oops. Uh-oh. What did I just do? All right. All right. Minimize. Okay. I wanted to get that picture, that side picture with everybody's faces on it. I wanted to get that out of the way so I could see my whole screen. All right. So let me get back up to the top here. All right, what you should be seeing is the first page, revenues and administrative expenses. For background, we being myself, Stacy, Elisa, Bobby, to some degree, Gary and Carlos have been working on this for the last few weeks. And we've arrived at where we are today with this revision 6. So we've gone through quite a bit of iterations of it before today. For those of you who may not recall, column C is the 2025, this current year's budget. Column D is what revenue we've realized or expenses we have incurred through the end of October. Column E is our estimate of what we will spend in addition to column D for the rest of the year, November, December, and column F totals column D and E. And then column G is what we fill in as the budget for 2026. I guess we just go. All right, so account 400 is the assessment fees. This is what's billed to owners, regular quarterly assessments. Plugged in the current the same figure for 2026 budget as we had for 2025. This will be the last thing we change once we have the budget finalized and we find out if we're going to be more or less than last year, and we adjust accordingly and then set the assessments in accordance with that. We had just for the note, we had a 5.9% increase in assessments year over year, 2024 to 2025 last year. I'm hoping we can do better than that this year. 408 is owner storage unit rental. This is pretty straightforward. If any board members who want to interrupt me anywhere along the way for a question, just chime in. Because I'm not gonna ask for questions. You guys can just do it as we go. Let's see. Commercial space rental. This is the hairdresser, Sotheby's, Heather Dawson's operation uses the laundry room on the first floor of the lodge, and so we charge for those accordingly. Pretty straightforward again. Service and collection fees. This is interest on late assessment payments, penalties, and interest. Transfer fees. This is $400 per closing. We anticipate 27 or 28 closings for 2025. So we're going to be pretty much right on budget on that. By the way, that 2020 that number of closings is consistent with last year, but it's down considerably from 2023. I think we had about 45 closings in 2023. So real estate market's a little soft. Realtors won't tell you that, but we all know that.
I'd like to say, yeah, just on that, a comment. After talking to Julie in September, the real estate market is challenging right now. And I asked her, are you seeing this more so at Tamron? She said, oh no, it's everywhere. So that's just a little FYI for people who feel like there's like a red check mark against Tamron's name. It's not. It's the economy. It's insurance. It's everything. So interest rates. So the real estate market is down, and it's an economic trend. It's not particular to our property. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, that's right. And adding to that, our price per square foot on actual sales figures is dropping, and there's currently 25 units. We had 40 units on the market as of maybe a month ago. Apparently, some listings have expired, or owners have pulled them off the market for the winter. The winter is obviously the slower season for real estate, so we're down to about 25 current active listings, and 16 of those are in the lodge, and lodge units just aren't moving very well. And when they are, they're moving for less money than they had 2 to 3 years ago. Let's see. Okay, laundry machine income. We noticed a pretty precipitous drop in the checks we were getting from the company that we contract with for the for the laundry room equipment in the 4 areas, and Gary did some digging on this. We did some research. We looked into it. We questioned the company, and it's apparently in the contract. There's a threshold. Not sure why this didn't happen last year, but and I don't even remember when the last contract was renewed. We may be in the I don't know. We may be in the early years of the current contract. Regardless, the for 2025 we only actually got paid for 2 months, and those were 2 of the summer months. So we're dropping that budget considerably because we don't expect to get anywhere near the numbers we used to get. Vending machines. This is primarily the soda machines in the service centers, and we were informed by the company that that loads those machines that they're no longer paying commissions. They put the machines there for convenience, but they're not going to pay us commissions anymore. So we'll be deleting this line item. We aren't getting much out of it anyway. But there it is. Okay, these last 2 items probably need to have some discussion. 460 is is basically the resort fees we collect from per room night on short-term rentals. Currently, we're collecting $31 a night, and out of that, $28.84 goes to Glacier, and we keep $2.16. There's been a considerable amount of discussion amongst some board members about that we're very low compared to other properties around us, and that as a way to increase revenues and also acknowledge that short-term rentals are a detriment to the property in a lot of ways, that we should probably increase that so that we can get more money out of it. Anybody want to talk about that?
Hey, Joe, I was going to propose, well, I have a couple things. First of all, in the laundry machine income, I'd like to just pass to Bobby a question about if we have a contract for that and if there are other options for us. I mean, it's small, but it's something. If we were originally getting about 4,000, maybe that's worth revisiting. So I know Bobby's on the call, and maybe next week we can find out if we have options there. But then as far as line 17 and 18, the resort fee and the monthly rental fee, there is some discussion to have there. I propose that we move through the budget and we come back to those 2 things so it doesn't hijack the meeting. Is that okay with everybody?
Fine with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
I mean,
I
think
have a
that's going to be
question.
discussion point.
I'm sorry, Scott, what did you say?
Oh, I think there needs to be a lot of discussion around that, only because that's kind of been our, we're going to pick on the renters line of the budget for years.
Yeah, so I think that's best to just let's not derail the meeting with that, and we'll talk about that at the end. And then Tricia, what was your question?
Just wonder why Sotheby's is getting such a deal. I mean, if they had to rent in town, it would be much higher. And to me, that seems really low.
I know that historically that hasn't changed much, and
I will second Tricia's comments. I mean, we have subsidized that for years, and I still question whether it's necessary on site, but
I agree. I know it's convenient to have somebody's office you can pop into, but I I also agree that that is an extremely low rent, and that if somebody's going to sell their condo, it's not a a requirement to have someone here. My question is, how many purchases come around because somebody's visiting the property and they think, hey, I love it here. That's kind of what John and I did. I love it here. Let's see about buying a place. Oh, there's a real estate office. Let's pop in. Do we have that, or do most people find their condos through online and an agent? Do we have any information on that?
I don't know if we have information, but I can tell you trend wise, the on-site realtors have become, and this isn't to pick on realtors, believe me, I deal with them day in and day out in everything that we do at Stewart. But I have had realtors tell me this. They've gotten lazy. They don't have a whole lot to do because the consumers do most of the work up front.
Mhm.
I don't know what I missed because Sessa was sawing through a wall, but if we have use of that space because it's a nice office, it kind of makes sense that maybe we rethink about who could go in there. I know we're getting rid of the front desk and talking about redoing that, but that space could be used for our employees instead if we're not getting that much money. That's my input.
Yeah, our employees are cram packed into the business office space, and it's not ideal. Um, so do we know what the Sotheby's lease is and when it's renewed? Elisa?
Thought it was just annual.
I can try to find that here. I don't know offhand.
Is the direction this conversation going that we don't renew it, or that we renew it for a much more fair market value of rent?
I think that we offer her it at a fair market value, and if she does not want to pay that, or Sotheby's, however they're contributing to her, doesn't want to pay it, then we can look at using it for office space for us. There's still the future of her having an office somewhere else when we get rid of the front desk, but that would have to be a build out at her charge and then a reasonable amount of rent, my opinion.
I agree with Cheryl.
Well, this might be a multi-step process because Julie has always wanted to be more visible with her office. She feels that where she is, she's kind of behind out of sight. People don't walk up and down that aisle and just see, oh, there's a real estate office. She's always wanted to be in that, and she's requested it several times. She's always wanted to be in that small lobby area across from where the front desk is now. And if the front desk is going to be going away and opened up, and that space could be repurposed, and then Julie's current office could be an expansion of our business office, give our people more room. That whole process could be a benefit to everybody.
But
And
the
if
lobby
if she's finally gets her way, she being Julie, and can move into that more visible area across from the front desk, then her and Sotheby's may be more amenable to a rent increase.
and that's a lot bigger space too. So it should be to me, a considerable increase.
I found her lease. It's a 3-year lease that started September 1st, 2023. And
so it ends a little less than a
next
year
September, yeah.
Okay.
September 26th.
Well, that gives us
It's
time to
Yeah.
to research out what the rates are in the area. That's fine, but this is, if we're in a lease, then that's through 2026. And this is our number then. But it definitely gives us time to make an informed decision for the next budget year, unless our lease has a cancellation term, which I don't know if it does. Elisa, is there a cancellation term of any kind?
I'm looking.
Okay.
It's probably no. It's pretty simple. May terminate breach of, ugh,
You'd be looking for a termination without cause.
yeah.
Like could either side terminate with so many days notice or something like that.
Talking about damages or non-payment of rent. I'll send this to you guys, but it
Yeah.
doesn't look obvious.
I don't think we need to force this hand until the lease expires.
Yeah, and
I-
that gives us time to really figure out what we want to ask for and what we're seeing in the area.
Yeah,
And
we have to be
people-
fair to Julie too.
Yeah, people who have on-site real estate agents, find out what their arrangements
That
are.
when we're doing our
So, okay, so that's our number for this year. My other thing is transfer fees. Can we look at what's happening? I've had people tell me that they pay more than $1,000 or $2,000 in their community for transfer fees. I don't know if that's in the Durango area, if that what we're seeing, but I would like to find out if our number that we've been holding steadily for transfer fees is a reasonable transfer fee.
Well, this number hasn't, we've increased this number a couple times in the last few years. It was,
Oh,
Lisa, what was it? A few years ago, it was what, $200?
Yeah, I think we did like 250, 300, and then we bumped it to 400, and it's been
Yeah.
that way for a couple of years.
Yeah, and then the other thing to remember is this is just the administrative transfer fee. Don't forget that we also charge new owners the capital contribution, the reserves contribution
Oh,
fee.
yeah, that's
So
right.
there's that too. So you add those two together, and that can come to like I don't know, 1,500, 2,000, something like that.
Okay, yeah.
Can I ask what that other fee is? That's something I haven't heard of.
What other fee?
Not just a transfer fee. You mentioned there was another fee that they also have
Yeah,
to
it's
pay.
the capital contribution fee. I'll get
Yes.
to that one. I'll get to
Okay.
that when we get to the permanent reserves page.
Okay.
Okay, so then discussion closed on the commercial space rental. We'll readdress that this year and talk about as the front desk becomes a non-entity and we have space available that we can repurpose. We'll be working through that through 2026. Is that what am I reading the room?
Yes.
I agree with that.
All right. Back to these two lines. Stacy, you said you wanted to table that.
Mhm.
Table it to when? Table it to the end
To
of
the
this
end of
meeting?
this, to the end of this meeting.
Okay, fair enough. I just didn't want to leave it undiscussed today because today is where we really hash out things.
Yes.
The meeting next week is a regular board meeting and the approval of the budget is just one item on there. And
Yeah, I see some owners who have given me feedback on that, so I think it's going to be more of a discussion, best to move at the end.
okay, we'll come back to it. All right. Then we move on to administrative expenses. Insurance is cut and dried. We realized another 10.8% decrease in our overall insurance premium for 25-26. So while from 23-24 we were at 1.3 something million for our insurance, that's now down to the number you see right here, which is a considerable decrease. So as we'd expected and well, more like hoped that we the upheaval that we had in 2023 was a was a knee-jerk reaction by the insurance companies and that things would settle out. It seems like that's what's happening. And so hopefully that trend increases. So our insurance burden is quite a bit less.
Well, and I want to add that our coverage is finally full coverage again. In 2023, when our insurance was just under 1.4 million, we had the outlying complexes only had a total of $10 million in fire insurance. And now, last year we were able to get to 75 million, and this year we're fully covered, and we still see a 10.8% decrease. So that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
really good.
Yep. Yep. So while our premiums have decreased, our coverage has gotten back to where it was pre-2023. I mean, yeah, pre-2023.
And real quick, and then that's also with hopes of this year coming up for 26, 27. Hard to believe we're already there. That trend should continue.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Accounting and tax prep, very straightforward. Assessment fees uncollectible. This is just a number we put in there in case we have to write off any bad debt. We very rarely have to do that. Typically, when an owner gets underwater, can't pay their dues, it may take a while, but they either ultimately sell or otherwise dispose of the property, and we get our money. I've been doing this for a long time, and I can only remember one or two times where we actually did not get our full what we were owed because the unit went into foreclosure, and we only get a certain amount when that happens. So that's just the number we have there in kind of a protection. Legal fees and consulting. Unlike previous years, it looks like we're going to be right on budget. That's pretty good. So we'll plug in the same number for next year, and we move on from there. Again, if you have any questions along the way here, best to just butt in while we're on that item instead of having to come back to it. Auditing and consulting fees. This is our annual audit with Frederick. Actually, what's the name of the company now? It's not Frederick Zink anymore. It's
MBE.
MBE, which is the same people, but
Yeah.
their organization was purchased by this bigger company.
Yeah. MBE is a big accounting franchise around the country.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if our audit goes up more next year. I'm just saying that based on some of the this year was their transition, the first year auditing under MBE's audit requirements, and they were more extensive. So I wouldn't be surprised if that goes up a little bit, but that's just we don't have any evidence of that.
Elisa, have we talked to Michelle and verified that this is the number that it'll be for the 2025 audit?
I reached out and she did not respond.
Maybe you better do it again.
Yeah, she rarely responds to me, but I'll try.
That's
Stacy,
poor.
Stacy, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll reach out.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and highlight this in red so we make sure we cover it. They may very well be looking at raising the rate this year, and we'll need to know that.
Elisa, will you please send me all contact information for her?
Elisa, did you get that? Did we lose Elisa?
No, she nodded.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sorry. I'm forwarding it now.
Okay. Annual meeting. We've reduced this number over the years, trying to save some money. So there's where we are with that. Web services. These are our Gary, if you're on, you know what this is, right? This is our web hosting, and
It's web hosting, GoDaddy for email and Office 365,
right,
and a couple of other things.
right.
Is Zoom in there, Gary?
I'm
Zoom.
sorry?
Zoom.
Is Zoom in there?
Zoom is in there, yes.
Yeah. So these are our miscellaneous web services subscriptions. I think our domain name registration is part of that as well.
What brought us from 5,000 to 2,000?
We moved the HOA software. We moved the Bookerville from there down to account 577.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, computers, copiers, and office supplies. We underspent this year. Not sure the details on that, but then we will budget according to what we spent this year. Unless somebody thinks we're in need of a major upgrade to any of the equipment. I know Gary, you were talking about a computer desktop upgrade at some point during the year. Is that still on the radar?
Actually, not necessarily, because I got some updates installed and everything went back the way it was. Now, Norm Pope has said it should be upgraded. The thing is, support for Windows 10 has expired, and I don't know, Elisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we have any computers on Windows 11, although Elisa, you might have upgraded yours.
I was able to upgrade mine.
We should upgrade everything to Windows 11.
Some of them won't do it
Some of
because
the
they're too
some of the
old.
hardware is old enough that you can.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
and I
then-
think Norm said that yours wouldn't, Gary.
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Then
But-
we need to look at that. We need to look at that. I mean, we shouldn't stay on old platforms, because then you could be dead in the water unexpectedly.
Well, and they're not doing any virus protection updates on any of the old software, so it leaves them open to a host of things.
Yeah. I think we need to look at that and see what it will take to I'm going to highlight that, and we can look at it this week and see if we can come up with anything. Okay. Anybody have any disagreement with that? I mean, why would we stay on? I think what Windows version are you on, Gary?
I'm on 10.
Oh, you are on 10.
Yeah.
I think when I talked to you earlier this summer, you said you were still on 7.
No, I do have a computer here at home that's on Windows 7, but
Oh, okay.
no, I'm on Windows 10, and the Taco computer, the Taco laptop is on Windows 10. That will probably need to be upgraded, but I don't think that will take Windows 11. That we bought that 10 years ago. I don't think that'll take 11.
I don't know how you guys managed to make a hunk of hardware last 10 years. I've never been able to do that on my personal computers. All right. Payroll processing, straightforward. Property taxes. I think we may see some property value increases incrementally, so we up that by a couple of $100. The highway signage, these are the blue signs coming south and coming north, identifying Tamaron. And then HOA software, again, this is our Buildium and Bookerville platforms. There's been some discussion about whether we can replace Bookerville with something cheaper and more streamlined. Any discussion on that?
That a discussion that needs to involve Heather.
Heather,
I think Carlos did some looking into it, isn't that right, Carlos? And they were pretty expensive.
Yeah, the ones I looked into were expensive and offered less, and just everything we need from Bookerville they didn't have or were add-on services. So it was just Bookerville appears to be the best option we have right now.
So Bookerville captures the number of nights that people rent their condos. And that's really all we need, right? Or the reporting.
Yeah, and it makes up my Excel reports that I send to Glacier Club every month. So
it covers the accounting for the resort fees.
The reason I asked Carlos to look into that is because it also does a lot more, and we don't need the other as like it tracks housekeepers and stuff like that, and we don't need those features. We just basically need a simple tracking, like a day tracker. Um, and so, but I haven't looked into it. And if there's nothing else cheaper, then we've explored it. So, but that was the discussion, is all the software has more than we need. So if anybody comes up with something else, please share.
Okay, moving down to personnel, excuse me, personnel expenses. This was basically worked by Stacy and Elisa. You guys have any input on this? Fire away.
I don't. I think any detailed discussion for personnel, I prefer to have an executive session.
No comments.
It's year over year, it's a little bit less than last year, so that's a good thing.
I will say, I went back and I just went back to budget worksheets. I feel like it was for the 2023 budget, when our budget worksheet had front desk staff, and then it had an office staff, and then we had Taco employed 2 overnight maintenance guys. And when I added together their base compensation from 2023, it was roughly $570,000. So I keep going back to this analogy of, how do you eat an elephant? You eat an elephant one bite at a time. We have slowly whittled this down to where it is today. And I think that's really good work on our board and our staff and the owners of Tamaron to go through the changes we've gone through. But it's our total compensation has gone down significantly the last few years.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move on to the next page, which is building and grounds. These are the 600 accounts. Again, Bobby Sherman had a lot of input here. We went over this. We had a meeting early part of last week, middle of last week, going over this. So account 612, build common area maintenance, materials and services. Again, this is material services and supplies just in support of the buildings. If anybody wants detail on this, holler and we'll have Bobby speak to it. Cast iron drain waste vent replacements. This continues to be an enlarging problem. We have a lot of cast iron replacements within the unit, from unit to unit, before we get to this is not the main sewer lines coming out and down and away from the buildings. This is the sewer lines within the buildings. So it continues to be a problem. So we've increased the budget considerably based on experience. Snow removal, we had a really light snow year. And it's not, I just heard on the radio or on TV that this is expected to be a La Nina year as opposed to El Nino. El Nino means more moisture. La Nina means less. So we could be looking at another light snow year again this year. But we never know. So we'll budget for the same amount we budgeted last year. Roof and ceiling repairs. We're budgeting 6 or 7 that are on the list in the queue for 2026. Grounds, pretty much the same as last year. And maintenance BHP has indicated that our push mowers are at the end of their life cycle and we need to replace them. So they want to get 4 new push mowers at $300 each. That'll go into this line. Common area plumbing. We did some extra work in High Point this year that's covered in the actual figures. Did we discuss, Bobby, Elisa, did we discuss why this was considerably more than budget this year? Did we reconcile this against account 614 and make sure we have the numbers in the right places?
Yeah, Bobby, wasn't there something happened that we had to put in that category?
Yeah, we had the High Point thing. Where did we put Big Cat? Was that in capital?
The Big Cat work in Pinecone?
That was capital, right?
That's down in capital. Yeah, we'll get to that.
I'll look this up, but it might take me a minute here.
Okay, why don't we?
But we did talk about it. There was something in there that extraordinary, and we decided to move it back down to 18 because it should be back to normal.
Okay, I'm gonna highlight this, and when you come up with with whatever it is and how we handled it, let's make the change. Or are you saying we just budgeted it down to 18 and we're happy with that?
Well, both. I just was hoping to give you the explanation. I just can't remember.
Okay. See if you can find that so we can at least satisfy our minds that we're in the right place. HVAC for the common areas, we upped this because Bobby indicated that there's a wall-mounted HVAC unit that's failing and we need to replace it. Am I right on that, Bobby?
Yes.
Okay. Administrative expenses, we negotiated with BHP last year to try and get control of this and have it be a flat fee for Bobby. This is the hours for Bobby and Jessica in the office. And so it looks like we've done that fairly well. And as long as BHP is happy with that, we can keep it where it's at.
Joe, it was the sewer line work we did up in High Point. We had to camera it. We had to have leader come back to repair the concrete. Bobby, does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what that jump was?
Yeah, it wasn't cast iron, it was PVC. That's why we put it in plumbing.
Okay. All right.
That's when the golf ball went down
Oh, yeah.
the
The golf ball. That's
Somebody
right.
washed the golf ball in the washing machine and it went down into the pipe and backed everything up.
How does that get past the washing machine filters? Jeez.
Maybe
Somebody
we
might
can detect the filters.
Might have went down a toilet too. Who knows? I don't know.
Well, that could be.
Bad round of golf.
All right. Thanks. All right. Miscellaneous building and property labor. Bobby, do you want to tell us what this is?
Man, this is, a list of a string of stuff that I don't have in front of me right now, but we made that category last year for stuff we didn't have specific categories for. I can't even think off the top of my head. Lisa,
But the good news is we underspent it, so we're lowering the budget.
Yeah,
Correct.
I've got the list somewhere. I can look for that too.
Okay. Window washing. Apparently this company Crazy Dog is the only one that'll do it. I'm going to look at these 4 accounts all at once. This is the ongoing exterior maintenance that we primarily put in place after the exterior remodels of what's now approaching 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, to keep the exteriors looking fresh, looking like they did when we first did the remodels, keep them up, in other words, so we don't have to deal with wholesale painting and staining all at once. We do it incrementally every year. It's not a small amount, but Bobby indicated that there's a number of exterior maintenance items in the outline on the exteriors of the buildings. You mentioned a couple of those, Bobby, when we had our meeting. Can you reiterate those?
Yeah, I mean, there may be some instances where we need to replace some cedar that's cracked and split too far to seal and restain. After every winter, we have some rocks that fall off the pillars to the entrances to each building. We have to repair. Handrails need painted. The bases of the handrails rust out. We have to replace those. They have little boxes around the bottom of them. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. That all sounds familiar. Yeah. So we're increasing these budgets by 5,000, so 20%, because of this extra work. The buildings are getting older, even though they've been remodeled. There's a lot of components of the exteriors of the buildings that are older than the remodels. All right. Fire safety equipment and maintenance. I'm not sure I recall what the uptick was in the spending, which results in the uptick in the budget. Anybody got any input on that?
We had the smoke fire extinguishers inspected this year, which was skipped the year before for some reason. That was an uptick, and Bobby, help me out.
Noah does his yearly testing. Jason, their prices went up a little bit. That had something to do with it. We replaced some glass on the fire extinguisher boxes property wide. They had been taken out or broken over the years. That was some extra cost. But I feel good where that number's at. I don't think we'd be close to that next year, I would hope.
There was also the initial work with UMA to try to hook up those lines up, which now we're just paying. Well, I don't know. Now we're just paying the monthly fee on that, and that goes somewhere else. But there was some purchasing of their equipment in that.
Okay. Bobby, did I hear you say do you think we need to be at 25,000, or do you think that the increased items from this year will be repeated next year, or can we look at lowering that budget any?
I'd drop it to 20.
Okay. I like it.
Try that.
Yep. All right. Okay. Elevator maintenance. These are our current, Dyson Krupp is our elevator contractor. So there's the number for them. Who's PEI?
That's the state.
No, that's professional
Entity?
elevator inspectors. They have to inspect the elevators every year. It's going to happen sometime this month.
And then apparently BHP is inspecting on a monthly basis as well. So there we are. That communication systems maintenance. Uh, what's in here, Bobby?
Oh, that's all the work we do on the iWorks. A lot, it bounces back and forth between temperature monitoring and iWorks. Communications, a lot of the work we do on the phones, the dish wire, keeping the wires and the hubs clean under the buildings, stuff like that.
Okay. Okay. Temperature monitoring and alarms. Any
That'd be a
commentary there?
Lot to do with the iWorks system. We had a hub that went out this year in High Point and Gamble. That I believe that was tied to the fire system before it was upgraded in High Point. That was one of the router boxes. That was an expense item, and then we replaced a hub down in Gamble Oak for the iWorks system. Those were about $5,000 a piece.
Okay. Fogged or broken window replacements. This is where owners report that they have moisture appearing within the window envelope, the dual pane windows. They fog up, they get moisture in there. We spent about 20 this year, and we're budgeting for the same for next year.
Just out of curiosity, just going back to one of the bids that I saw, I think it was for the gentleman whose window was above the restaurant. What does it cost? How many windows does 20 grand replace? Because this is the gift that keeps on giving.
Are you talking about fog windows or are you talking about replacing?
Fog windows.
Gary, you can answer that.
It's just the glass pane we're replacing with the fogged windows. It's not the entire window. So what you saw for the person you mentioned was the entire window.
I know. The number just threw me off. So I'm just curious what the number is here.
The unit 101, that's the owner of unit 101. His complaint was that his casement windows, his operating windows would no longer operate because they were the mechanism was rusted out.
I get it. I'm just curious, how many do we get for 20 grand to put a glass replacement?
But the 20 grand has turkey in there. The 20 grand has turkey in there as well.
Yeah, we're going, so I know what Scott's saying. He's saying we spent 20,000 this year replacing glass planes. How many windows were corrected with that 20,000? And
we have a waiting list. What's our?
And can I answer this before Gary gives a number? Scott, Bobby and I are bringing this into Buildium and managing it. Once I get it in Buildium, then we'll be able to project and we'll be able to go through the spreadsheet so we can see how many people are still on the list. I just haven't had a second to get it done yet, but I'm hoping to get it done sometime in December so that going into January, we've got it in Buildium. So it'll be reflected in there and we'll be able to see how many we can do each year and what our budget is and how much we're leaving for the turkeys.
And I've got 5 since July that were done. And I'm going to have to look at a different report to find out what was done.
I'm just curious what it costs.
5 units were done. And is that what you're saying, Elisa? 5 units?
Well, because half of it's in Buildium, so I don't have a
and we don't know how much,
but there was two. Yes. Well, unit 330 was 5,000. Unit well, this is 2 units.
No, I mean, how many windows were done for that 5,000?
Oh,
level of detail.
That I don't know.
So it sounds like we got to 5 units, Scott, for 20,000. We're saving the other 10,000 because the other year, 2 years ago, we had so many turkeys flying in windows that we spent about $10,000 from the turkey hits. So
Yeah.
now we're kind of leaving some of that glass pane budget for possible turkey hits or other damage to windows. But for the 20,000, we got 5 units taken care of, and some of those had more than one glass pane.
Okay.
And we
I don't want to
got
belabor the point. I was just curious if that knocks out 10 units on the waiting list or what that number really looks like.
5 units, and I feel like we were down to three,
Yeah. Okay.
3 units after this.
Okay. All right. Just curious.
So we're good leaving that at 20,000 for next year?
Yeah, we lowered that, remember? So I think that that's where we want to be with that instead of the higher amount.
Yeah, and we can control that. We can, whatever, we can knock however many off the queue that bring us to that number, and then we stop.
Right.
Minus the turkeys.
Minus the turkeys.
Thank God we haven't had any of those this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
knock on wood.
You just jinxed us. They're going to be running for the hills because of Thanksgiving, Bobby. We'll probably have turkey strikes in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, right.
Okay, daily operations, open, close. Bobby, you want to speak to this?
Yeah, daily operations, open and closing of the dumpsters, the shops in the morning, closing all the stuff at night. This has morning rounds. They pick the trash out of the recycle dumpsters and stick it in the trash dumpsters, which is always a fun task every morning. If trashes are over full, we'll take a truckload to another dumpster if it's empty or got more room, especially over the holidays. Stuff like that.
Okay. Maintenance and insurance on vehicles. Did we get the new insurance rates for 2026, Elisa?
Sorry. No, she is hoping to have them this coming week.
Okay, I'm going to highlight that so we make sure we don't lose sight of it. Okay. Fire mitigation around buildings. Big item here. We spent a lot more than we budgeted. However, we think that went a long way towards reducing our insurance costs. And the conventional wisdom is that we continue to spend the money and get this, keep the ball rolling on this.
Well, and it's
Maybe.
not just, I'll remind people, it's not just for insurance that we're doing this. We're actually doing it to protect the property. If there is a fire, it's just smart. It's just smart planning. It's smart landscaping. So it has a twofold benefit. One of them pays off back in cash when our premiums are lower, but then we are safer with the fire mitigation.
Yep. Okay, electrical and appliance. We added this with this line item during the 25 budget year, just because we wanted more granularity. We wanted to keep an eye on what we were spending in this area versus having it lumped in with other line items. Pest control and bat mitigation. Pretty straightforward there. We continue to have to deal with the bats, though they weren't as prevalent this summer as they were in years past. And then carpet cleaning and janitorial, we grossly under budgeted for this last year. Not sure what happened there, but we're adjusting for it. We've locked in with Bobby 3 days a week, 8 hours a day, plus the carpet cleaning to keep the lodge common areas clean and the service centers clean.
And there is no way we would get that for $20 an hour from anywhere else. So that's really good.
Yep. Okay. Unless there's any discussion on any of the 600 accounts, I'll move down to utilities. Water and sewer. The water company, Elbert Creek Water Company, did raise the rates this year. Their rate increase marginally raises the rate for regular domestic water use. We'll see a 2 to 5% increase there. However, their rate increase as it applies to large users, and we fall into the large user category when it comes to irrigation, is going to result in a considerable increase, 15+%. And you couple that with the fact that we used a lot of irrigation water in 2025. I applied the new ECWC rates to a few months of actual usage for 2025. And I came out with a budget of $495,000. You'll see the number here is 465. We're lowering that to 465 because we're planning, as you'll see down in capital projects, to upgrade all of our sprinkler controllers to be weather smart so that we're not watering while it's raining or when it's been raining. We feel that observation has been that we weren't able to manually keep adjusting these sprinkler controllers in response to when we had heavy rains, which we did during certain parts of the summer this year. So while we budgeted 397 for, I think that was probably under budgeted by about $20,000. Not sure why, but we spent 465. Like I said, I figured that our increase in water rates would, if we spent the same, if we ran the same amount of water through the meters in 2026 as we did in 2025, we'd probably spend closer to 500,000. But we're hoping that by reducing this budget and spending some money on these weather smart controllers, that we'll save some money there.
Joe, when we did the budget in 25, did we have the new rates there, or did we assume?
There was no in ECWC did not increase rates from 2024 to 2025.
Okay. And then Bobby, I have a question for you. They just did some work in Pinecone to lower the water pressure in Gamble Oak, right? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Okay. When that water pressure was high, does that result in more gallons of water to have, like, will we be seeing lower water usage because of the lower water pressure coming downstream?
I don't think so, because all those lines have a pressure reducing valve on them to keep it at the same pressure going out from the main line.
Okay.
Did I just hear that there was some work done in Pinecone to reduce the Pinecone pressure so as to reduce the Gamble Oak pressure? Is that what I heard?
It was just to reduce Gamble Oak, I think.
Gamble Oak and Rockwood.
Yeah. What effect did that have in Pinecone?
None. That was the PRV valve that they dug that hole for all summer there, September. I'm sure you were here right off the tee box of 7.
Behind Eric's unit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They moved the pressure relief valve that was in the intersection of Tamaron Drive and Glacier Club Drive down to that area to reduce the water line pressure in Gamble Oak and Rockwood.
Okay, so it's not affecting the water pressure in Pinecone then?
No.
No good. Water pressure in Pinecone is not very good. It's low, in my opinion. But as long as they didn't do anything to make it even worse. All right.
No. Now, since we're talking about that topic, That PRV valve is in correlation with the water shut off that we're going to have on November 18th for the whole day. They are removing that old PRV valve in Glacier Club Drive and Tamaron Drive. So they're going to have to shut the water off to High Point, Tamaron, Pinecone, Rockwood, Gamble Oak, the Lodge, Glacier Club, everything. So owners, we've sent out the emails, but Elbrook Creek will have water bottles, cases of water bottles on County Road 200 if owners want them, but there will be no water for that day. They're going to start at daylight and they're going to go until they're done. So
that's an all day thing.
Yep.
So basically they're just digging up, digging out, and taking out the PRV valve and just replacing it with a splice pipe.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Satellite TV is pretty straightforward. I think we're in the third year of our current five-year contract with Groove. Electricity, can we get somebody, we talked about this last year, and when we had budget discussions last year, we heard there was no rate increase by La Plata Electric coming down the pike. And then we were surprised to find out there was like a 8.8% increase that became effective in April of last year. Now we don't seem to be as affected by that as we thought we might, but is there any way can somebody talk to La Plata Electric and see if they can get a good read on whether they're planning a rate increase for 2026?
I can reach out, or me or Gary can reach out to them and see what we can find out. Yeah.
I think Gary might have done it last year, but I can help too if we can't get a hold of anybody.
Yeah, I mean, impress upon them that this is for our budgeting purposes. We're a fairly significant customer. We're spending $175,000 plus with them annually. Can they just, can they give us a frank answer in terms of, even if it's a swag, yeah, we're thinking about raising rates between 4 and 6%. We can factor that in and be more prepared for it.
I think since they left Tri-State, anything's up in the air right now.
Oh, I know. Their costs are going up. Yep. They continue to tell us that they're doing such a good job with these alternative energy sources, but
yeah,
frankly, I'm not buying it.
Nope.
Okay. So somebody's going to take a look at that, see if they can't get at least something out of them this week before the meeting next week. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Internet telephone service. Again, we're in the middle of a second 5-year contract with Ting, which is now Clear Networks. Is that who we're with now?
Yes.
Yeah. Refuse service. Discussion point here. We've talked about eliminating the recycle for various reasons. I'll let somebody else talk to that. And we're also looking at the possibility of not staying with Waste Management. I think our contract with them runs out next year sometime, and maybe going with another waste collection company, Republic. I've been on the periphery of those discussions, so if whoever has been on point with it, far away.
I think
Gary?
that I looked at, I had my husband look at the contract,
Go ahead.
and he said there are a few ways out. Number one, they caused some damage to our property this year. They haven't cured that breach. We might have some leverage there, but usually when you start getting into that, it involves lawyers, and and we don't want to add to our costs. Then if they increase our prices, there are certain conditions under which if we have a price increase and we oppose it, we can get out of the contract. I have not read the small print. And otherwise, if we just want to change our vendors, then we have an opportunity. It would be between next July and next September to give them notice that we will not be renewing. To me, that sounds like the easiest way if we're sure that this new company is going to be less. Right now, the indications are that they're about 40% less. But I think they haven't been to our property. So I just feel like if, we're down to the wire as far as our terms for this year with Waste Management, and it might be better to just go according to, finish out our contractual term with them, give notice this summer, and if we decide that the new company is really better, and instead of trying to rush and trying to find a loophole and getting out of the contract and getting the new people to come up here, it's all rushed. So to me, that's what I think is the best thing to do. Let's keep working on the relationship with the new company, make sure that they're good and that their estimate is viable for our property, and then give actual notice to Waste Management in the summer.
Can everybody see the note that pops up when I hover over that cell?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the numbers. 35,770 if we keep our current deal with Waste Management. And remember, that's only until, I think it's until September. Am I right on that? Is it?
December.
Oh, it's December. So it runs the full year. Okay. And then 27,696 if we go with a new 3-year deal with Waste Management, and then the lower number if we go with Republic. The main thing with Republic, in my mind, is and I like Stacy's approach, because what I'd like to see us do is get some references from other HOAs, not single family homes, not neighborhoods, but HOAs where they're doing dumpster pickups, and see what kind of good or bad things customers have to say about Republic, references, if you will.
And the difficulty of our property, especially during snow, having to wheel the trash cans out of our alcove in the lodge. There's some, unusual circumstances here.
Yeah, they need to know. They need to come to the property and see what the devil's in the details, and see what it is, and see if this 18,590 is just you just drive up and pick it up and drop it off and go. Well, that's not the case. They have to pull the dumpster, even with the outlying dumpsters, they have to pull them out of the dumpster sheds and put them back without causing damage, which we know that happens now. So
Joe, what's the plus 440 on your number for
Gary sent me the quote we got from Republic. There was a $440 charge for delivering and placing the new dumpsters.
Oh, okay. So it's a one-time charge.
One-time charge. And their 18,590 doesn't include taxes and fees. So I'd like to see them identify that, what that is. I mean, yeah. Okay. So are we in agreement that we're going to leave everything status quo for this year?
I like it.
Okay. I'm going to take the highlighting off of this. And
sorry, I think I misspoke. I think our contract is good through next November, not next December. I'm looking at it now.
It's almost a full year. So.
Yeah.
Okay. Capital projects. Okay. We talked about this at our last internal meeting. If we look at right now at the bottom line down here is that we're at current rates, at current HOA fees, and the budget items that are listed in this column, we'd be $176,000 over budget. So we'd have to increase the HOA fees in order to cover that. If we want to be lean more towards a balanced budget or a budget where we can put discretionary funds in the reserves, and we'll talk about reserves in just a second. I highlighted these 4 areas where these are things that we think that it's possible to defer, just not do them this year, save the money, and apply those savings elsewhere, either in reduced HOA fees or adding discretionary funds to reserves. So
I'd be interested in Bobby's input on those capital project deferrals.
yeah, Bobby, we discussed this with Bobby a few days ago. Bobby, why don't you talk to each one of these and tell us what you think.
Okay, the parking lot is Gamble Oak is due this year. It has some settling areas in there from utilities, but it's been like that for years. Matt had put in his bid to do a little more patching in that area to smooth it out. Structurally, I think it'll be fine if we defer it for a year. It's just not going to be nice and, a little more smoother and nice and shiny and black. SDEC support replacements, I have the majority of those fixed last summer, so I don't foresee any issues with those. I have one that I have to fix for sure, but it's not going to be a complete rebuild. Outside spiral stairs, once again, it's not a structural thing. It's just a visual thing. If you want to defer that, that's fine. And deck repairs in Pinecone and Gamble Oak. I think I don't know if I would want to defer that completely. I'd say leave us a couple thousand in there, maybe, in case something happens. But structurally, the decks are fine right now, as far as I know. Last inspection we did, Gamble Oak has some areas that would be a concern, but nothing that's screaming, right at the moment. So
if we deferred all these, where's that leave us from a standpoint of the reserve?
Well, you would take look at the total, 62. About $75,000 would come off of this number down here.
Okay. And what are we putting? Are we putting anything into reserves in this budget, Joe?
Well, let's finish. All right.
Yeah, let's finish our discussion first.
Okay.
Let me finish the discussion here, and then we'll go to reserves, and I'll show you what we're doing with reserves on a year-over-year basis.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick.
So the things we have to do, the things we know we have to do, are these 2 items. One is a fire suppression pump controller in High Point, in the lodge, that has to be done in 2025 at that amount. And then 841 is completing the outlying areas, Pinecone, Gamble Oak, the new fire alarm reporting systems that would get us to the point where we don't need overnight weekend monitoring of the alarm panels, because then after we finish this work here on line 841, we would have reporting of any flow tamper alarms via Durango Electric to the fire department, and we'd be covered. We'd be in compliance with the agreement we made with the fire department
2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah. So those 2 things we have to do. We always put 25,000 in unplanned capital expenses. So if any of these other items pop up and need to be fixed, like an S deck replacement or a sagging deck in one of the outlying areas, we have the cushion of this 25,000 to potentially cover that. So
Bobby, where was it you said that we should probably leave a few thousand?
And
I
840,
think it was this one.
yeah, but if we've got that unplanned capital at 25,000 sitting there, if we need it, we could just defer it.
Okay.
All right,
Hey,
so
and
I'm,
real
But
quick,
if we have unplanned capital that we usually use, should we increase the unplanned capital a little bit?
we can do that. We've typically, I could go back to previous budgets. We've typically used up the 25,000 plus some. Elisa, you gave me the the numbers for this year. We're at 38.8, and I think the components of that were, tell me what they were again. She's looking, I think.
Sorry, it was the Big Cat to do the repair on the sewer line in 805, 806.
Okay, stop
then-
there. So
yeah.
stop there. So the sewer line in 805, 806, what was the tag? What was the tab on that?
20,720.
So that ate up 20,720, but we are planning on folding that into what will be next year. Should I go there, Stacy? No.
We're going to talk about that in the board meeting, Joe. I'm gonna have that on the agenda.
Okay, so then it's okay
Keep
to.
moving.
So all right. So that amount was paid to Big Cat. So I would factor that out and say that our actual usage this year of the 25,000 is about 13,000. So we effectively have underspent the 25,000. That's not typical. We usually do spend it and maybe spend over it. We could increase it to say 30 and for a little safety there.
Let's do that. I like it.
Okay.
And then we can zero out the other lines.
Okay. All right. Let's go to reserves. Okay, so this year we contributed $59,351 to reserves. Our budget this year plugged in is 57,600. That's a nod to decreasing interest rates over the next year projected. Trish, you asked about this. So here, 942 is the capital contributions from sales. We charge all new owners 2 months regular dues when they buy a unit, and that money goes into reserves. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's 35,000. That was 36,000 this year, 35 next year. We have one unit that the association owns that is rented currently to a front desk employee. So there's that revenue. And then interest on investments. This is basically our CDs in our federal funds account that is held with Edward Jones that John Mills handles for us. He's our account manager. He's an owner and he's our account manager. The ending balance of reserves right now is 222, 141. However, there's I'll pop this note up. Well, I don't need to pop the note up. There's we've borrowed 60,000 from those reserves this year to cover some other expenses. So that'll be put back probably before year end. So our year end total reserves will be in the $280,000 range. And then we'll add another 57,600. So by the end of next year, unless we dig into it at all, we'll have about 340,000 of reserves. So there's that.
No, each year I've said I would like to increase reserves, and we've just been on this roller coaster of roofs and expenses, and it's been deferred.
Insurance.
Yeah, let's not forget. I still think we need to have an intentional increase in reserves, but I'm curious what the other board members think.
I agree 100% with you, Stacy.
Put it in perspective. 3 years ago, say 2022, if we go back and look at the year-end financial report, this was before the 2023 insurance debacle. We had just under $800,000 in reserves.
Yeah, and that initial insurance down payment took a huge chunk out. So I'd like to put something in. What about our other board members? Thank you, Chad.
I agree. That's why I brought it up. I mean, we've got makeup to do. I remember the 800,000 number floating around for a while.
I agree.
Yep, I definitely agree, Stacy.
I
think Cheryl just agreed, but she got cut off. So
did, because we're screwing in metal stud here, but yes, I agree.
So
before we
100,000, like what does that look like?
Well, before we do that, we probably should come back to this.
Yes, let's come back to that. Thank you, Joe. I'd like to start, and then I want to hear from some of the people, board members, and I'm going to open up to owners, because when I was on the property in September, so many owners came to me about short-term rentals. Not only did we hear from our USI agent that the short-term rentals are a problem for insurance because so many programs won't talk to us. So you eliminate competition right there. I did find out that even that's property insurance who won't talk to us, but our liability insurance company said our liability insurance, that policy is, and that's not the expensive one for us, but that's 9,000 higher because of short-term rentals. We have a history in Durango where the volume of short-term rentals between 2021 and 2024 went up about 400%, and that's for condo rentals. That's not homes, cabins. Those are condos. And I've asked my former property manager, have you guys seen a decrease in nightly rent rates? She said, oh, absolutely, because the increase in property available is so high. Everybody's had to drop their rental rates, and they've had to drop constraints. Like when I rented, my property manager had a minimum 5-night rental. Insurance companies like the minimum 5-night rentals. The ones that are harder on the property are the 1-2 nights. And she said, and now everybody allows 1 and 2 nights. The price per night has gone down. Renters also are booking at the last minute a lot more. So it sort of changed the, the face of the average renter. The average rentals, when they were 5 nights and there were fewer condos, we were getting more, perhaps families. We still get those, but now you're getting different population of renters when you bring these things in. And based on my conversations with staff, with owners, these were some of the concerns that were expressed. There are actual costs to us. Actual costs are maintenance, to do repairs that are caused by renters. um, utilities, insurance markets, our staff time, and I think this is really important, our volunteer time. Our Rules and Regs Committee is doing a bang up job, and we spend so many hours on situations brought to us from renters. And volunteer time is real. I know everybody on the board understands that. We don't get paid by Tamaron, but that is a cost nonetheless. Um, and the other intangibles, number one, wear and tear on the property. I had an owner send me trash just thrown in the parking lot outside of a car from a renter. Um, our maintenance team then has to go pick that up if owners don't pick it up. And owners who step outside and see that, it is affecting their enjoyment of the property, which is a really big conversation that came to me in September. And I will share, and I'm sorry if this is TMI, but some of you have heard this. My husband and I stepped out our front door, and there was a renter checking in, a man who I would say is probably in his 70s, but could have been younger and just lived hard, and two women. He left the women unloading the car, and he walked up with no shirt on to the stairs approaching the unit in High Point he was renting. And instead of going up the stairs, he stepped aside, dropped his pants, and peed in the bushes, and then threw his cigarette butt into the bushes. Now, the next day, I heard from the next door neighbors of that unit that they were outside having coffee in the morning, sitting on their deck, and this gentleman peed off of the deck. That is a pretty severe example, I know, but it's what I saw, and frankly, I can't unsee it.
You can't make this up, can you?
Yeah, so that's what I mean about the 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 changing demographic of the renters, and the shift in the rental program the last few years is affecting owner enjoyment of the property in a lot of ways. Cars parked on the grass, these are some of the complaints. And so when owners came to me, I said, you need to be heard. Come to the board meetings. And so that's why today I want to give some owners a chance who have an opinion, and board members as well. Scott and I don't think other board members have rental units, but Scott and I for a long time have had skin in that game. I recently stopped renting. I'm about to do a big remodel, but for 10 years, I rented my condo. And so I've been on both sides of the equation. And Scott enjoys the property as an owner, but he rents. And so we have a board that represents both sides of this issue. I'd like to hear from board members, and I'd like to hear from owners. So in this case, I'm going to start with the owners, and then we'll follow up with board members. But there are two things we're talking about. First of all, the nightly resort rate. So Tamaron pretty much passes the whole thing to Glacier. Our walkaway pocketed money is $216 a night. The thing about the resort fee is it's paid by renters, right? You'll have your fee to rent, say your $200 a night, plus a resort fee for the property. And it's paid by renters. I did an analysis. Purgatory charges 14% for their property fee. They call it a property fee and a maintenance fee and something else. We are way lower than Purgatory if you consider that we're only keeping $2.16 a night. And if that resort fee goes up, we will probably have fewer of the renters who are looking for the cheapest show in town. Currently, our rental rates are cheaper than hotels in Durango. Then the second thing is admin fees assessed to rental units. That is paid by owner, not by renter. So we have two areas in the budget where we have the ability to visit the cost to the property that I just named that people are incurring, and whether it bears some increased collection from owners who rent. So there's the topic. Who would like to speak?
I'd like to speak.
Okay, Rick.
This is Rick Hughes, 581, 582. To follow up what Stacy said, we can speak from experience. Last August, we spent a night up at Purgatory. And, I saw the resort fees. So the 14% Stacy's talked about now, that's going to be an increase of 6% for them this year, just since we stayed. But I came back after I got my detailed bill and looked at it, and looked at our property for a comparable size to the unit we stayed in up there. And we were about $25 to $40 a night cheaper at Tamarron. And so then I started checking, and Tamarron was from where we are up the mountain. We were the cheapest rentals. And that correlates to what Stacy's talking about, to some of the type of renters that we were getting. Another example was there was someone stayed in the unit, not Dan Tyler, but in Spencer's unit, which butts up to us. There were they had kids. There were actually 3 families staying in the one unit. And they had kids, and they were using their fishing rods off the back deck. Well, they left a fishing line with hooks in one of the bushes.
Ooh.
So we could have had other people walk by, pets walk by, and get one of those hooks. So that's just another example that, we're of the opinion we want to upgrade the property, and I think that's one area where we can do it. So we're in favor of a fairly substantial increase in the short-term rental fees.
I have some comments. Renters seem to cause most issues with rules and regs. It's just a constant nonstop. And personally, as an owner, I am not happy about having to pay higher insurance rates for the people that rent when it doesn't benefit us at all. And I've talked to numerous owners who are really not happy with a lot of the renters that we've had. And this summer, we had a family from Oklahoma, no offense, Rick, that they had 54 people here in different units, a lot of them being in Pinecone. All these little kids are starting at the top of Pinecone and riding scooters super fast to the end of Pinecone. And I even tried to talk to one of the people staying, saying, this is dangerous. The kids are going to get hit by a car. People drive in here fast. Nothing was done until I finally called VRC to complain about it. That's another reason our insurance rates are high. That's why we don't allow scooters and bicycles riding up and down the parking lots. It's a danger. And I agree, we are way below the rate. We need to increase it so that we do get a better class of people. And also because when we talked to Julie Glenn about what people expect out of resorts and buying, she said, we want this to look like a 5-star resort. And we do. We want to keep up with Glacier. And in order to do that, I think we should increase.
Hi, Stacy. This
Hi,
is Eric.
Eric Tibbetts.
Yeah, let me just add a couple. I won't go through my horror stories, but let me just start out by saying a former board member, and I owned units that were devoted exclusively to rental for 10 years at Tamaron. Sold the last one about 3 years ago. Um, the the whole character of the rental market in the last 15 years has changed pretty dramatically, and I think other folks have already commented on that. I think the board has two possible, maybe exploratory approaches is the right word. One is to raise the fees so that the rest of the community is not subsidizing those folks who have their units in the rental pool. That would certainly be consistent with board policy going back many, many years. And the second thing the board might be considering is a straw poll of some sort to see whether actually the community is in favor of continuing short-term rentals, maybe a 5-year phase out of rental properties consistent with an amendment to our DCCRs voted on by all of the membership might be appropriate. But I think a straw vote might be indicative to help the board proceed along this path.
Can I point out a few things, Stacy?
Go ahead.
As everyone knows, I've got, 4 units and I've had them rented since the day I bought them, and that's going on 15 years now. There has definitely been a change in the types of rentals that we've gotten. And I would submit to you, because I've seen this in other markets where I have rental properties, that a big part of this is independent owners playing in the VRBO Airbnb space. They have driven the average rental nightly cost down considerably, and that has hurt rentals in general. It doesn't matter if it's, at Tamaron or if it's in Galveston. It does not matter. It's happening everywhere. And it's because people during COVID and otherwise got in thinking they, could rent their property and buy a second home slash rental property and subsidize it, as Airbnb and VRBO type rentals. And what they've come to find out is the cost associated with owning the homes has necessitated them keeping them as occupied as they can get. So they cut costs. So they cut nightly rates in order just to get them to cash flow. So that is part of our problem. Keep in mind that one of the things that we've done historically is we have continued to increase the nightly or monthly fees associated with rentals, primarily using the excuse of the front desk support. Right now, that has gone away. So we have to keep that in mind if we're going to have a discussion around any increases. I would also submit to you that we are not Purgatory, right? If you look at the resort of Purgatory versus Tamaron, there are different amenities. You're on the ski slope. So we have to keep in mind that's not an apples to apples comparison. Not saying that we can't increase it, but it's certainly not an apples to apples comparison with what they do up at Purgatory. And the last thing I will point out is everybody on this phone call and every owner at that damn place has seen an increase in their property values of probably double. And a big part of that is because we have people that have purchased their homes and they use them as rentals. If we start talking about eliminating or reducing the ability for people to rent, you will see a catastrophic drop in the value of the property there. So, we have to go in this with our eyes open and make a decision accordingly. I think we need to have some discussion. There is nothing that any renter wants more than to have their nightly rates to increase. I'll be the first to tell you I've been bitching for 2 or 3 years. Why are we renting my unit for $70? Because people are showing up and wanting to rent a unit for the night. Now, are they the problem, folks? I don't know. I think we need to have some discussions, probably with VRC, and try to figure out how do we collectively put some kind of policies in place that minimize the habit of people to take any amount of money they can get and try to drive nightly rental rates to a reasonable amount, maybe put minimums on it. That's a slippery slope, right? Because we don't run a rental program. So we need some legal guidance as to what we can and can't suggest as a board and as an association as it relates to that. But I'm in complete agreement that we have got to get to a point where we've got higher nightly rental rates. But I think it's a very slippery slope to suggest that we would eliminate the rental program across the board, because let's face it, guys, 5-10 years from now, most people on this call probably either won't be owners or a lot of our folks are going to phase out. So we're creating a permanent change by eliminating a rental program. And I just I don't think that's a good idea, because people bought those properties for a specific reason, disclosed that when they bought it. And they need that cash flow. If they have to start selling because they don't have the cash flow, property values are going to drop like a rock.
I'd like to follow up after Scott.
Okay, Scott, I appreciate your input there. It's true. We can't have a mass exodus of owners who can no longer, their financial means for their condo has fallen through the floor. However, we can't control nightly rental rates because we don't have a rental program, but we can do something similar through the resort fee.
I don't know that we can't, though, Stacy. I don't know that we can, and I think we need to do some exploration around that. I mean, I agree it's going to be hard, right? We can go to Heather, who controls however many units she controls, and have a discussion with her to figure out how we do that. It's the independents that bother me, or worry me, not bother me. How do we control that? Because we have no visibility.
We control that. We collect the resort fee from the owner. And either
that's
they're
just the
passing
resort fee. We don't, it's at the end of the day, it's what does it cost me per night?
Right.
So if the resort fee is 60, then the accompanying actual nightly fee for rent is probably going to drop, because it's the total amount that they're paying per night. So that's only a piece of it.
Well, if they drop it, when we first got this resort fee, my property manager just kept my rent the same, but added a resort fee. And
that's why I say we have to do some exploration. We need to have some conversations around it. I'm all for higher rents, believe me.
Stacy, Norman.
I'm sorry, Norm. Can I let Cheryl go first? She had her hand raised.
Okay, sure.
Thanks.
To tag on to what Scott said, hey, I get that nobody wants to have a higher resort fee, but I would like to point out, when resorts started doing this, however many years ago, everybody griped about it. Everybody had a problem and nobody wanted to pay it. But you know what? Now it's become the norm. Ours are lower than just about every single person in town and above us. And it does need to raise. I don't think we're talking about $60. I think we're talking more 40, 45 to try and get in line. And I don't see how that would affect rentals. We're getting a better caliber of person by doing this, just like the hotels are. And we have a heck of a lot of amenities. We have the pools, we have the gym, we have the golf course that they can play on, because just about everybody that rents ends up having the membership so that they are able to pass that on. We also have walking paths. We have so many things there. We might not have a ski resort right behind us, but we have one 10 minutes up the street, which makes it very convenient for them to come and go to Purgatory. And we are very family friendly. I mean, we have a lot of pluses, and our property could really benefit with a better clientele. And the higher resort fee will help that.
Thank you, Cheryl. Norm, go ahead.
Thank you, Stacy. To give you some perspective of what I am about to say, Kay and I collectively have been around this property almost 4 decades. We purchased in May our 7th unit at Tamarron. We both have served on this board in 2 critical times, I would say. And these are kind of observations with fresh eyes as I saw the property. And to someone's point a few minutes ago, this is a 5-star property. we are treating it like a 3-star property, is my first point. When I moved in, I had to move bushes aside to walk up the steps. Now, I appreciate in anything that I say that might be perceived negative, it's not, and I've said this to Bobby, this is not negative to the staff. I think there's challenges there. We haven't funded the level of grounds that we should because it is a 5-star property. Nor is this negative toward the board. I just finished my last board experience in Destin in October. I appreciate the insurance conversation. I appreciate the challenges that nibble at boards in trying to manage a huge budget. By the way, Joe, a great job on the budget. I appreciate all of the conversation around that. I want everyone on this call, and I started to save this until next week, but I'm going to do it now. I want you to think about, most of us own other properties where we say this is our primary property and we just have a vacation home. I want you to think about the questions I'm going to ask, and I don't expect answers. How many of us would allow bushes to grow for 3 or 4 years without cutting them? I know the property manager, which is sitting next to me now, she would say, we're going to cut that this week. Or sidewalks that need power washing at High Point. Or flower beds that are weed beds. How do we, I know we schedule window washing. Why is this not on the schedule? This is a 5-star property. We need to fund it that way, and we need to at least establish a plan. So I'm asking the board to think, and other owners to think about, how do we establish a plan for this? I agree with Eric about the rental. Absolutely. We have abdicated our responsibility and our control to rental agencies. You don't know who's on this property. Every week that I have been there, except for the last 3 weeks, and I'm out of town, I have picked up dog excrement myself. And yet I see, wait a minute, only owners have dogs. Well, even that makes it worse. Anyone that would not pick up after their dog 10 feet from where the bags are located has no ethics. They have no responsibility. These are the people that would cheat on their spouse or cheat on their taxes. They have no integrity. That's my front yard. High Point is my front yard. I'm going to pick it up. I expect owners to have that same attitude about your front yard. How many of us would put a yellow dumpster in our driveway for a year? I have redone with Kay 3 units at High Point. And I've said this to Bobby. I want to support Bobby and his staff. They have not been given the budget to do the things that need to be done. I assure you the HOA in Destin would not allow me to do that. We've redone 3 at High Point. We never used a dumpster. The contractor took things off on a daily basis. And I appreciate the efficiency, et cetera, et cetera. Irrigation system, I'm pleased that's in the budget. Just went through that in Destin. To have water sprinkling our grass when it's raining is ridiculous. I would encourage the board and the owners to think about, how do you view your property at Tamron like you do where you live most of the time of the year? How many of us would not do something about the fact that the grass is dying in our front yard, in Scottsdale, in Houston, in Oklahoma? We're going to address that. My conversation with the owners and the board specifically is the aesthetic value. A 5-star property requires a 5-star aesthetic value. If you want to 3-star, I would invite people to sell and buy at Pine Acres or Hermosa Cliff. This is a 5-star property, and we are not being dedicated to the property that was found some years ago. I encourage owners to step up and say, we are going to make this property look better. Again, we've abdicated our responsibility and our control to rental agency. We do not know who's on property. I was chairman of both long-term and short-term rental when I was on the board. We knew everybody on our property. We don't know that now. Thank you.
Yeah. That's part of it. I've observed housekeepers spending the night in condos that they clean. I had that happen in my condo. So there is, and thank you, Norm, for your thoughts there. There's a real impact on the property and the owner experience. For purposes of this budget, number one, I do think it's a bigger conversation that perhaps, to Eric's point, an owner survey on this, but for this budget, right now people are looking at these fees of, like Scott said, we used to say there to go toward the cost of the front desk and administrative costs. The 460 is pretty much passed to Glacier, but it does require staff work. It requires software. The thing is, we as a board don't have to approach those as purely a cost pass-through. Here are our costs, financial costs of short-term rentals. So here's what we're collecting, because so many of the problems that people have with short-term rentals don't bear a tangible, financial, quantifiable cost. But when I walk out and see people peeing in the bushes, that's a big cost to me. And if Julie Glenn happened to be showing a condo and walks up next to that guy peeing in the bushes, I guarantee you nobody's going to buy the condo she's showing. So a lot of the cost is non-tangible, and it's time taken from people who are working toward keeping Tamarron a great property. So I would like for us.
Amen.
Hey, is there and this is just more, I know it's virtually impossible for us to know this across the board, but how do we back into where we have rental problems, who the owner is and how they rent?
Well, I'd like to comment on something on that, because we had a mess last weekend or weekend before last with VRC. And what happened was there was a guy staying in a unit with a trashy trailer and an ice chest tied to it and a dog and a car. And what ended up happening was I went and talked to him, because I even contacted the owner, and she didn't think anybody was staying there. It was her impression that no one was supposed to be renting that unit that time period.
And our office confirmed that too. They had no reservation for them.
Yeah. So I went and talked to the gentleman, who got a little pissy with me, and just told him he showed me he had paid for the unit, blah, blah, blah. As it turned out, the man had moved to one unit and it wasn't to his standards. So he moved to another unit, but VRC didn't update it. So we thought he was there illegally. And Heather said, well, she should have handled it. Well, she couldn't handle it because we didn't know it was under Heather. And then she said the dog was a service dog, but she said they didn't note that on the rental information. And he didn't note anything about having a trailer. And she said what happens is they just click that they read rules and regs and they don't read them. So it's not just individual owners. It's vacation rentals too that they aren't fully disclosing all the information and making sure that the renters are documenting it all.
And that's why I asked the question. I mean, I think we need to have a discussion with VRC and, put some accountability back on them. And I use VRC. So I want nothing more than for them to be renting to the best renters that they can, that they can, and they're getting the best money that they can. I mean, maybe a discussion with Heather that says, hey, if you're going to have more than X number of rentals, we expect you to have somebody come up and inspect the property or drive through. I mean, I think we need to have a discussion on the best way to manage that. And I'm not just picking on Heather. Any of the rental companies should have a responsibility beyond a website and somebody paying with a credit card.
And that's the thing is now everybody just books automatically. No one talks to anyone.
Right.
It's just all the booking. I gave the example of the gentleman urinating to the property manager who it was, and that property manager just said, "Oh, I hadn't heard about that." And I thought, no, the property manager should have said, "If you ever see that with one of my rentals, notify me immediately and I will handle it." But the property manager just kind of laughed, and that showed me how little the property manager is valuing our property. I said, this gentleman threw his cigarette in the bushes, had no shirt on, had peed in the bushes, and the property manager just said, "Oh, I hadn't heard that one yet." And, to me, it was very dismissive.
And maybe that's grounds for removing that property management company from having access to our property. Again, I think those are the kind of discoveries that we need to do, right? I mean, what I'm saying is we need to be very careful with discussions around the rental program, and we need to do the necessary research and explore how we can work within the confines of what we have and work with them to improve it.
I agree. It's a bigger issue. There are lots of things like, can we have a contract with the property managers if they're going to represent Tamarron that holds them accountable to certain things?
Right.
So maybe I'll talk to the board about an ad hoc committee looking into the long-term solution. But I'd like to show you guys, if we increased our property fee, resort fee, whatever you want to call it. I did a quick analysis. Joe, I'm going to grab the screen share if I can, or Gary, can you help me do a screen share? So Joe, stop.
Do I have to stop share first, Gary?
Yeah, I think so, Joe. Let me make Stacy a co-host, and before you drop anything, Stacy, go ahead.
Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Not yet.
No.
Okay.
Joe, stop sharing your screen.
Okay.
See what happens. Stacy, have you clicked on share your screen?
No, I thought you were making me, but let me go ahead and do that.
You still have to share, Stacy. Yeah.
Okay. There you go. So I took, the only comparable, we looked at charges per night. Resort fees per night range from roughly 40 to 75 around resorts in Colorado, Las Vegas. So, but I went to our area and I found Purgatory has 14% per night. We're talking, the number I'm putting out is $45 a night. We give Glacier $29.71 of that. So we would be keeping roughly $15. So I did an example, say a 5-night rental at $300 a night. Purgatory keeps $210. We keep $76. A 3-night rental at $175 a night. Purgatory keeps $73. We get $45. So we're still way under the local comparison. If we collect $45 a night, we give Glacier their $29 and we keep the difference. But if we keep that difference, Joe, how many rental nights are we budgeting?
10,000.
Okay, so we're going to say equals $15 a night roughly is the piece we would be keeping if we went to 45 times 10,000.
Yeah, I came roughly 150,000.
150,000.
Yeah.
There's our
That's a
there's our
lot of money
budget.
to our reserves.
There's our reserves or there's our budget difference. And again, this is passed to the renters. You can keep your rate the same and add a $45 a night resort fee. You're going to get a different class of renters. You might have a decrease in rentals, but you'll still get them. And we're not going to be the cheapest show in town anymore. So I feel like this checks a lot of the boxes while we perhaps form an ad hoc committee to look further into the solution and the legalities of what the association has the power to do with short-term rentals.
I agree. And, I agree with Cheryl. So Purgatory might have a lot of business during the ski season, but we've got all these other amenities that Purgatory doesn't have. And we should keep up with them.
Well, for
because
example, we have a restaurant that we provide as a benefit of the property. We don't collect revenue on the restaurant. It's an amenity.
Right.
Our hairdresser, really, that's an amenity that we have on property. We have a lot of amenities, and so to me, this checks a box for some of the concerns expressed about volume, about nightly rental price decrease, about more onesie twosie nights, and the quality of renter coming in the property. This addresses that, as well as so many of the quantifiable and non-quantifiable costs that owners are coming to me about. So that's my proposal for the budget, is to raise the nightly fee to $45 a night. Most of that will be borne by renters and not by the owner. And people can speak up. That's just what I'm putting forward. And as you can see, we're still way under that if we did something like Purgatory did.
Hi, Stacy. This is Carla Hughes.
Hi, Carla.
Hey. Just a couple of questions. I'm right on with what Norm was talking about, making a 5-star, because I think the type of renters, we talked about is we're not getting the quality, we might get quantity, we're not getting the quality of renters. So I think starting out what you just proposed is great. And I think, we start out this year, but I think next year we need to even raise it more.
Stacey, can I respond?
Yes, Norm.
I think you ought to double it. I think you're just putting off what it should be. It is absolutely a sin that you're collecting what you're collecting. You use more water in the washrooms than you're earning. I would double it, period, and move forward. And I would address then the survey about short-term rentals. And I, Scott, disagree with you. I think the property is always going to be valuable because it's a 5-star property. It will only go down in value if we allow the aesthetic value to be represented the way it's represented now. We have to support Bobby and give him the tools to do his job. And that is to bring this value of this property to the level that we found it in 1970.
Okay.
You
Thank you,
Norm.
Norm.
On that one.
I'd like to, Carrie is chatting in the chat, and she's reminded me a couple times that she has some comments. So go ahead.
Hi, and I'm sorry I can't go on video, it won't allow me. But so I just have a couple comments about the raising of the fees, and I agree with a lot of the comments that have been made with regards to the need to compete. I do agree with Steve that I don't think we are Purgatory. I think that we've had a lot, and I do own a short-term rental there. I have 238, 239 and the lodge. We have had a lot of complaints about the fact that we no longer have our shuttle to Purgatory, which I think would help us kind of promote ourselves more as that resort, especially when we are trying to compare ourselves to Purgatory. That's just one kind of side comment. I would say that the costs at Purgatory are also incremental to the size of the unit and the cost of the stay for the guest, which I think as we want to raise would be an important component to how we structure raising those. Because when you have smaller units that don't accommodate the larger sized parties and are a much less per night reservation, increasing it is going to continue to drive to the point where the owners cannot increase their rates. Stacy, this is probably where I do disagree with you. We cannot pass all of the resort fee to the guests. At this point, the reservations that we have had, we've continued to have to monitor and decrease rates to try to compete with other vacation properties around the Durango area. And with the night fee going to Glacier/Taco, with the HOA fees, with utilities, etc., the nightly rate for lodge units has continued to decline to the point where, we don't keep our unit as a revenue center. We've never made revenue on this unit. We love the property. We spent $100,000+ renovating our property. It's something we love when we are there and use it for our own family. But the amount of money we make off of the rentals doesn't even cover our costs on a nightly basis, let alone create any revenue stream at this point with how much the increases have been in HOA fees. I agree that we should potentially increase our resort fees, and we should promote this as a resort. We have amazing amenities. We do a great job, showcasing the golf course. That we do a great job showcasing the pools and the amazing gymnasium that we have. So, I mean, I do think there's an opportunity to increase. I think increasing it to the same nightly rate, regardless of what your potential revenue opportunity is off that unit, creates a distinct disadvantage to anyone trying to actually rent units that are smaller in size and will drive owners to sell their properties. That would be my only concern.
Hey, how, and this is probably a question for Elisa, and I know this has come up before. I mean, we're overpaying Glacier. We all know that. And they're raping us, and we all know that. Because I don't think for the number of rental nights that we have, they are, if I were betting, I bet you less than 20 to 30% of the people use the amenity center, but we're still paying $30 a night. Right?
Yeah. We don't have information on who is actually going to the pool or anything. We pay based on the number of nights.
I just wonder how we could work with Glacier to back into that, because I mean, they're stealing from us. Period.
So that's why it's a much bigger conversation with a lot of things to explore. I think that we get a committee together and look into the different solutions. I think we all agree it's a problem. And everybody raises very valid points. And I think we need to look into this in 2026, maybe Q1. But we have to finalize the budget between today and next week. And so that's what I propose here. And then we dig further into the issue. We look at any ability we have with Glacier, or how we can effectively hold our property managers accountable, and how what do we do with rates, and how do we I would like to immediately find property managers when renters break rules. I would just like to immediately find them. We can't immediately find owners because Colorado won't let us, but we could immediately find property managers if it's legal. So there are a lot of things that have some impact to what we're all experiencing. But what we can't do is nothing, because it is the owners of Tamaron are bearing the cost. The majority of people don't rent their unit, but they're bearing the cost in many different ways. So that's my proposal here. And if we don't want to, we also have the other revenue line, so maybe we'll talk further this week. But that's my proposal for this.
I agree.
So the question is, and this is for the board members, do we go ahead and plug that number in here now? And then, we're not voting on this today. The approval of this budget will be a week from today at the board meeting. So, but does the board want us to plug that number in here now so we can have its effect on the bottom line as we move forward?
I think that we should. I think it's going to help with our gross number, and it's going to show how much we'll have going into our reserve, which is going to
Well, hey, I don't think 45.
greatly affect the owners if they're having to help offset that too.
Ed, you started to say something.
Well, I just think I'm kind of on Norm's and Stacy's side on this one, but I don't think 45 is enough. So
looking at that,
we can put a placeholder and then have further discussions because
I'm okay with sticking with 45 but I do think we need to, we have an opportunity next weekend with the rest of the ownership to hear from them. If we're going to continue to raise it, we have to do it incrementally regardless. I don't agree with Norm that you double it. I mean, if we're going to do an increase, we do it over time and we do it consciously and in a disciplined manner. We don't just throw a number out there just, for the sake of it. That doesn't make any damn sense. I think there's other conversations that need to be had.
Well, can't we start with 45 right now and see how it goes this next year in 2026 and decide at that time whether we need to raise it higher after we've had time to
40,
research it?
Well, and even if we compromise and go to 40, that's still more beneficial than staying where we're at.
Yeah.
Well, we could compromise and go to 40, and then since in most cases now what Carrie decides to do with her unit is up to her. Lower the nightly rental or add a resort fee to 40. That's up to each owner. We don't control rentals, but we could increase our monthly collection from owners of short-term rentals from 60 to 75. We could lower that resort fee that's passed to renters a little bit and move it down here. The whole principle of this is the tremendous cost that's being borne by the majority of owners, either financially or just a unquantifiable cost that we have to recognize. So we have a couple of options here.
I don't necessarily agree that ownership is taking on a huge hit here. Yes, there's some increase from an insurance perspective, but it's nominal when you take it over the course of a year. But I get it, and I'm agreeing that we should increase. I think the $40 is a good number, and I'm okay increasing the I don't know if I'm thinking of it as quarterly because that's how I see the bills, but the monthly rate for the short-term rentals.
Well, and I'm just going to say one more thing. Passing this on, especially if you sit here and say to double that rate, if we put it as a resort fee, which we're already doing, the $31 resort fee, we will see a reduction in our rental volume. So the amount you're collecting is not going to be a double because we are already fighting for every reservation we get with the fees that we currently have. And we've already seen reductions as we have increased our, kind of nightly rates to try to accommodate these other fees.
Yeah. And I think we need to put a committee together and we need to have that discussion because we need to hear from everybody that rents. Carrie is on my side, I'm sure. We want, at the end of the day, how much does it cost every single night, regardless of what's included in it? If it's 150 and 40 is going for resort fees, then we're probably going to be dropping the nightly rent.
And like you, I have I have properties in multiple states, and so I deal with this in different ways with different states. But it is. I think I would love to be a part of the committee, and I applaud the idea to have the committee because I think we do need to increase the rates, but I think we need to do it in a way that supports everyone.
You are hereby appointed.
Stacy,
Except that Scott doesn't get to appoint people, so.
Can I add one last thing to this? I don't know how many of you rent or people that rent actually come up to Durango and actually drive up the 550, but I'd like to point out that most of the hotels on the 550 have been purchased by other groups and they're all being renovated. The nightly fees for the hotels, I guarantee you, in the next 12 months are going to change with these hotels putting the money that they're putting into it. Our flea bag hotels have changed and they're making them nicer. So that's going to change the whole dynamics of the rental situation in Durango as these hotels start upgrading. There isn't one of them really that hasn't started making changes to it since 2020, the early 2025.
Let's hope they do. I would also submit to you that we've also had 3 huge hotels that have been added downtown. So, I mean, it's a balance.
Stacy, I think you should really keep it at 45. I think that's a good number to start for this year.
Okay, 45 and we'll look at, I'll get with Joe this week and look at account 472 and what we're going to bring forward to the board meeting because I know this will be a lot of discussion. So, Joe, that's what I think we should do.
Oh, all right. So I'm not going to do it right now while we're online. I'll finalize all the changes we've made today and send it out to the entire board plus Elisa and Bobby after this meeting or sometime this weekend or before Monday morning. So you'll see the effects of it and then we can massage it a little bit more over the week and then come into the board meeting on a week from today and be ready to make some decisions. But I'll make this number reflect the $45 a night plus there's another component of that. It's what we call midterm rentals, rentals over a certain number of days a week that we charge a lower fee to. What?
What is that?
Yeah, let's not get into it right now. I need to talk it over with Elisa. It adds about $3,000 or $4,000 to this number, and I need to get clear on it with Elisa what that is.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to get clear on that too.
Yeah, well, I'll be prepared to better talk about it at the board meeting next week.
Okay. And you have a red question mark on violations. Let's just not budget that. Let's leave it at 0. And if we have violations that we end up ultimately getting to fine and they're not cured, we'll have money in, but we can't predict who's not going to cure their violations.
Okay, that's fine. And then you want to table 472 until next week?
Yeah, I'd like to have an increase there, but let's you and I talk this week and get something together that we think makes sense for the budget presentation next weekend.
Okay, sounds good.
Today's discussion has been very informative and lively. And Joe, was there anything else with the budget you wanted to present?
Yeah, I skipped over this area right here. So new proposed capital projects. This first line item is the Bobby did some quick estimating of what new weather smart controllers would be. I believe these are the ones that Cheryl recommended. I can't remember the name of them. Cheryl,
the HydroWise.
HydroWise, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're about the 11,000 is the cost per plus $400 each for the new controllers plus BHP labor to install and program them and get them all set up. And then there's a backflow device for Pinecone for the shop. I don't know if you've covered that yet, Bobby, but if you get that information to me during the week, and I'll get it put in here.
Okay.
And then We've talked to Big Cat about running the camera lines down the cast iron lines inside the lodge. This is inside the lodge. This isn't. Big Cat has only done our major sewer line laterals out in the parking lots, coming out of the buildings and down and into the sewer main. But now we're going to look at them to possibility evaluate what the extent of the problem is in the lodge and whether we need to go further on in there and replace cast iron lines in there. So this is just enabling us to evaluate how severe the problem is in the lodge with the cast iron lines.
It's giving us information, and it's also we're going to ask them questions like, could it be done in pieces? Could it, instead of all at once? Really just finding out information on an issue we all know is there behind the walls, and so
yeah.
That's
background on this. We looked at this 3 or 4 years ago. Rick remembers. This was when Tim Broren was our property operations manager before BHP came on board, and we hired a company to start to begin to look at this, and got 6 months down the road with them and realized that, and this was to replace all the plumbing, all the cast iron plumbing in the lodge, and it was going to be in the multi-millions, big money. So we dropped it. But I think what Big Cat would be doing is more putting the liners in there. And I don't know how well you can do that in small lines, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, that's it. I'll update this. And put the numbers in there that we've been talking about today. And I'll put in a plug number. I'll put in a line item for the discretionary addition to reserves, and we can discuss all that at the board meeting next week or during the week.
Great. And Joe, I'd like to get with you on Monday or Tuesday this week, so just email me your schedule and your availability.
Sounds good. Yep.
I want to thank everybody who attended, who commented, sharing your thoughts. And Joe, thank you, Joe, Lisa, Bobby, for the budget work. It's a hard time of year, so it's much appreciated. And we will see everybody next week, an hour earlier than scheduled. Yeah. And you'll be getting an announcement about that.
8 o'clock.
I know. Hey, I'm with
Life's
you,
hard.
Joe.
Life's hard for you retired folks.
Can I come in my pajamas?
Just keep your camera off and we'll never know.
I've made that mistake before.
You can do anything you want from the waist down. Just don't stand up.
There you go.
Okay, guys. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a good Saturday. Bye.